And I'm showing up as an investor for the last 30 years, consultant for as many years, coaching businesses for the last 15 years. I started a mentoring program 5 years ago, and I'm having a 21-day business challenge starting every month. So February or November 1st, I'll have it for 21 days. So it's very interesting, a way to communicate, connect with other leaders to do business, refer business, or joint ventures. And the question I have for myself is, how is this applicable to me at this stage of my life going forward? And what is the value that I can gain from this? But the intention is growing a business and expanding a business. We've stepped into 2022 with a lot of technology. And what I'm starting to understand is just recently, in just the last couple of years, I thought, what an amazing world that I have access to any movie that I want to see. Even if it comes out right away, I could see it right on my screen. I can access any music that I want through Amazon or recordings that are any music, any sound. And I could read any book that I want as soon as it comes out. And very modestly, yesterday I bought a $12 book. And then I'm in Scrib D, where I could read all the books. And I'm in the library, and I could take out 10 books every 2 weeks. And so I have a lot of information, and so do you. All of you do. And this is without the internet. The internet just has a lot of information. So the question I step back and think about is, we've got a lot of information already. How do we step into this world the best that we can, the best that we show up to give the most to the world? I think her premise is grow your coaching business. That's all about me. Yeah. But what is the best self showing up in the world? And it's not writing a book for me. Part of it is because the book I started and did it's already become updated, and my thoughts, my interests have gone to other places. And of course, maybe I could come back and expand it and condense it or expand it even more. But it's become a part of my philosophy going forward. And here's the thought, is with so much information, so much data, so much really quality books, literature out there, I think our journey, my journey, and I would encourage others, the journey is to be able to be specifically focused on a particular area to learn. I think we need to be better learners rather than writers. I think that's probably the path. So my path, I thought, what if I could read one book a day for the rest of my life? And then, of course, how much longer my life is going to be. So I targeted how many. So it's 28,600 plus books that I could read. Now, even at that, it's small amount. And so what happens after that? I don't know the answer for that, but certainly I'll have the clarity to communicate, to engage with others, develop relationships, which is really the goal. A business is really developing relationships where we give more to the world, more than I take back. And I think that's the journey. If we came together instead and said, let's learn how to play the flute so that we can get into an orchestra. From what I understand, to be a master flutist, and I'm picking that because I assume nobody else plays the flute. It could be. So to be a master at that, to be playing in the ultimate, which would be equivalent of a bestseller book, let's say, would be to play in an orchestra, some symphony where people would pay money for. To get to that, it's been said it takes 10,000 hours, 10 years to do that. So if I started today, 10 years, I'm starting to really value my time a little bit more the more I age. So I'm thinking if I really wanted to play the flutist, I would have probably started a long time ago when I had a lot more time, a lot more interest. But for now, I've changed, I've shifted, and I think that's the same analogy for writing a book. I want to write, but the 10,000 hours to get to the quality level is a long distance. And of course, starting to do that, I think the better encouragement is to be able to journal. Now, if she had said journaling is a path, I think we could all journal. Journal, I think, in my mind, is for oneself rather for others. When we write a book, I think it's writing for others. We're just putting our own thoughts. So it's that kind of analogy that I'm thinking all of a sudden that mountain is so big. And so to be able to chunk it down, even if it was a small hill, just doesn't make sense. But the key here is writing seems to be a very much solitary experience. What I really enjoy and love in doing is this experience with being with Cynthia or Marcy or Michelle, to be here, interact, exchange ideas or thoughts, and be able to know that we're alive, that we can reach out to different parts of the world and and find out more about this. So the technology has shifted. The technology with the pandemic has shifted so that the Zoom effect has expanded tremendously. And now the medium has shifted. And when you make it a little bit easier for other mediums, reading and writing has taken a backseat. From what I understand, I don't know firsthand for sure, I understand a lot of people aren't reading books anymore. Certainly my preference is digital only. I do have physical books, but my wife said, you got to get rid of some of these books. So I started to trim down the physical books, and there's some that I want to keep. But even at that, I haven't had time to get back to it. It's so much easier with a digital iPad and be able to just pick up the book and absorb it. And my intention to read one book a day is starting to happen, which is really quite interesting. And these are thought leaders that are shaping who I am, how I communicate, how I show up in the world, and how I want to contribute to the world. What is my best self showing up? And so that's probably more of a question. How do we show up better with what we have and make a significant impact to the world? I think that's probably uppermost in my mind there. What if in our journey, we're actually collecting material, whether it's written, video, audio, interactions, and at some point it all gets culminates to something that may be valuable. Actually, it would always be valuable. I think there's always value to something that's put together. The question is how much value, of course. So what I've started doing is recording everything that I have. And now the technology has gotten to the point that I can do that easily, number one. Number two, I can somewhat edit at short time. And number three, I could also transcribe it onto a written format. And so now the technology is showing up so that it makes it easier for me as a communicator to be able to express myself, capture those ideas on digital format for some future delivery. And I don't know what that would be. It's collecting all these pieces in the journey. It's almost like if you went on a trip to another continent and you went from country to country and you picked up a souvenir and you kept the souvenirs. I always wonder why people did that. But you come home and you've got all these souvenirs, and of course those are ways that you can tell a story with a souvenir to other people. I'm wondering if perhaps that's our journey. Because of this, a big part of it is because I'm healthy, I'm active, I want to be active, I want to be outdoors. I don't have the time or patience, and I do sit still for hours, but that's not my preferred way. I want to be active. I want to be expressing together. But what if we or I or you are gathering materials on a journey for that moment that we pass it on to somebody else in whatever form that might be, because we're still talking about new technologies. New technologies, of course, I mentioned the digital audio, video, and Meta is coming, the metaverse. Right now, I read cliff notes or philosophers' notes of books every single day, and I'm still yet to go through more of those books. So there's a lot of medium out today, but in 20 years, 10 years, it's going to change the landscape of how we communicate, and we can bring the material that we have and disseminate it or adapt it or put it together. And perhaps that is our 10,000 hours, that we're doing that already in our journey going forward. We do, as human beings, have stories, and that becomes our legacy. And I think that's how we get remembered. I think there's also a part of us that we want to be remembered in some way. And it used to be having tombstones, and we could go and remember people that create all these elaborate tombstones. But then land gets scarce. And the other part, of course, is being able to do something significant, like Bill Gates donating all his billions and doing something worthwhile while he's here, so that he's creating his legacy and people will remember it. And I think that may be part of it too. So it's a dual aspect to help other people here and be able to be remembered for doing something significant. And we're a speck of dust, and we will be remembered, I think, but not too long. Unless, so what is our story? And I think going back to our uniqueness, we are very, very much unique in the world. And so we do have a story. We have our experiences, and we have something that all of us can step forward if we're willing to commit to that journey. I think it's called the hero's journey. Take that hero's journey. So if we're willing to commit to do that, in my mind, I think it has to be more outward, more giving than self-serving. I think that helps the journey make it easier. When it gets tough, it's a tough journey. When it gets boring, when it gets hurtful, when it gets tiring, that outward growing, the giving, I think allows us to go forward even more. So I really believe we do more for others than we do for ourselves. Started by Brian Johnson, who would take all these books one at a time and summarize it and be able to give you a philosopher's notes and a 6-page PDF condensing all the key ideas, and also put them on video. So you could have video, audio, and also written. And I like them all. I like the way that I can get the different technology presented to me, even if I've heard it again. I think sometimes by repetition, or if I hear from a different medium, I can get a different perspective. And now I'm accelerating my direction, because when I first started thinking and projecting that I want to read one book a day, I thought, well, how do I do this? And of course, like I said, I go to the library digitally and get 10 books every 2 weeks. I have Scribd, which is phenomenal. I can go in and they have different books. But then I started listening and watching to the Philosopher's Notes, which is now Heroic. And he has a very interesting journey that I really embrace, because it seems to be a journey that I would have started had I thought of it. And his journey is to be able to condense books into readable, but also have a community, and some part of that community on a daily basis, that I can not only have the theory, which is the learning, the practice, be able to have some practice session out of that, and the mastery. So he's been able to discern that in a very easy way for me to understand and be able to approach it. And so his journey is very interesting in that he, by 2051, wants to reshape or influence 51% of the world's population. Big, huge ambition. So that's phenomenal. I certainly want to be part of that ambition and contribute.